Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Jess Larkin, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Specialist at Cornerstone. I'm your host for the Build Your Brand series and your go-to gal for all your marketing questions. I want to help you build a brand that's focused on growth. For our webinar today, we're going to be talking about basic design, which we've touched on a little bit in the past with a pretty basic flyer walkthrough for how to build your own flyer. But today we're actually going to go more into the design principles. But before we get into that, we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. My information is right there on the screen if you'd like to get in contact with me. Also, be sure to give us a follow on social media. We post industry and Cornerstone updates and information. So go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube to give us a follow. I have some great news to finally share with you guys. Cornerstone is now offering a full-service marketing consultation program where I'm going to take a closer look at your existing marketing strategies and resources, help you establish realistic and measurable goals and objectives for your brand, and create a step-by-step plan to help you optimize your brand and take it to the next level. Some of the services I offer are brand audits, social media management, print marketing, email marketing, onboarding kits, and so on. Also, all brokers participating in this program will receive a free brand evaluation workbook. Contact me today for pricing and for more information. All right, let's talk design. If you remember from the last webinar, which was a copywriting webinar, you have 5 seconds to impress your audience and communicate your value. That's not a lot of time. Design is the most important element of your brand because it communicates a business's value and its meaning. You've likely had an initial aversion to this topic because maybe you're thinking, I'm not an artist, I don't know what I'm doing. But design is about much more than making something just pretty. Good branding and good design can help you leave a lasting positive impression on your clients and your prospects, but it's not as easy as slapping a logo on a Word document. An attractive branding piece with the right verbiage and a simple call to action can attract the attention of prospective clients and encourage them to engage further with your services. So today we're going to talk about basic design principles and my best tips for putting together attractive marketing pieces. Following in the footsteps of good design, we're going to keep it short, sweet, and to the point today. There are a number of basic copy and design principles to keep in mind when you're putting together your marketing, whether that's flyers, videos, logos, or postcards. Considering the design process, which identifies a problem, produces a creative solution, and refines that solution, can help you create a marketing piece that is valuable for your client or your prospect. So let's break that down even further, step by step. The first part of the process is considering the problem. What is it that your clients are struggling with? Is it affordability? Is it confusion about the market? Is it wanting to find a plan that protects their family? Identifying their main pain point by characterizing your typical client or the client that you're attempting to reach is the best way to move forward with good design. It's the key to success from the very start, is just getting to know what that problem is and identifying who your client is. The second part of the process is to determine the solution that you can offer and why that solution is better than what is offered by the competition. For example, if your client is worried about affordability, you want to consider tailoring your solution to your free consultation fees or something that has to do with them saving money. Third, you test your solution. This means asking for feedback and determining what messages worked best for each client. It's important to note a good solution is never complete and it's always being refined and improved. So don't just stop where you are. Always make sure you're asking your clients and your prospects for feedback about your designs. You want your clients and prospects to take action on your marketing. While the pieces should be nice to look at, we do have a very specific goal in mind, and that's to make a sale and ultimately a loyal client. A call to action tells your audience what to do next. You've hooked them in with your copy, and now you can tell them how to take action. A call to action makes it very clear to potential customers which action to take next, and it helps remove any friction in moving the user down the sales funnel. Some examples of effective calls to action include things like call today, get started, get a quote, sign up for our newsletter, and so on. The key is to make the action clear and concise. You don't want to confuse your clients because that's how you lose them. So here's a bonus tip. Include only one call to action on your marketing pieces so there's no room for misunderstanding. When designing marketing materials for Cornerstone, there are a number of design rules that I keep in mind for a more well thought out and cohesive brand. You may have noticed that all of our marketing uses the same color palette, has the same imagery, and is laid out in a very specific way. This is specifically done to make sure our brand looks very professional and is easily recognizable in the industry. So here are my rules. Rule number 1, a consistent color palette. Consistency is key with design. When you determine your color palette for your brand, it's important not to stray from those colors. The colors that you will choose are going to help you stand out in a crowded market and help clients and prospects remember your brand. Inconsistency can make clients think that your brand is unprofessional or disorganized. Consistent brand coloring can massively increase brand identification, which ultimately can help boost your sales and your engagement. So keep it consistent. Rule number 2, easy to read and professional typography. One of the most damaging design no-nos are the fonts that you use for your brand. There are thousands upon thousands of fonts available online, from fonts that are beautifully simple to those that are intentionally funky. When creating your branding, consider using common fonts that are easy to read, like Montserrat and Open Sans, which is what we use for Cornerstone marketing. And as with your color palette, keep those fonts consistent throughout your branding. I would suggest finding a good font for your headers and a good font for your body paragraphs. On the left here, you can see that I put down Proxima Nova as an option for your fonts. This is a very simple sans serif font that is commonly used in good design that is extremely easy to read. And it's very variable as well, so it works for a number of different industries and situations. You don't want to use fonts like this, which are very difficult to read and a little bit over the top. They may look fun, but in practice, they're very ineffective. Let's also consider the layout of the fonts because the words aren't equally spaced out and similarly sized on this page, so it's very difficult to read. When you're adding copy to your marketing, keep in mind the size of the font, the type of font that you're using, the spacing of the font in between each of the words, and the layout that you're using for the best readability. The main goal of choosing a font is finding one that is easy to read. And I just want to make note of the yellow that I used at the bottom here. You can't really see that, so you want to make sure that your colors are easy to read as well. Consider instead using fonts like this, which are very clear and easy to read. So that first font at the top where it says heading, that font is called Playfair Display, and that's considered a serif font because it has these little ticks at the top of the letters. So that's a very common, very good font that you can use. And then this bottom one is called Source Sans Pro, which is a nice sans serif font, so it doesn't have any of those ticks at the top of the letters, and it's very easy to read. Rule number 3 is simplicity. Keep it simple. I'll say it over and over and over again until the day that I die. There's nothing more jarring than coming across a marketing piece with 6 different starbursts, 10 different colors, text that covers the entire piece, and many calls to action that makes it very confusing for anybody to take action on it. When designing your pieces, keep it as simple as you possibly can. As we mentioned in the design process, identify the problem, create a solution, and include a call to action. That's the piece in general. If you want to see a full walkthrough of how I put together a very simple flyer, you can check out my basic flyer design webinar from last year. That's going to be on the Cornerstone Resource Center. Rule number 4, high-res visuals. We're all going to make a promise right now. Everyone put your hand up and repeat after me. I promise to never use a blurry, restricted image in my marketing materials ever again. This means refraining from just going to Google Images and copying what you see from there. Not only is that illegal, unless the content is specifically labeled with usage rights that allow you to use that image in commercial settings, but it often yields very low res images that make your content look unprofessional, like the images that you see on the screen, which are very fuzzy, they're very kind of childish looking, very unprofessional. Stay away from these. Instead, consider using stock image sites like pexels.com or shutterstock.com or any of the others that I put on the screen. They all provide very high-res photos that you can use. Some examples are the ones on the right that are very clear, the coloring is great, and they provide a variety of images for a number of different situations. So I would definitely go to these sites instead of just researching your images on Google. In the health insurance industry, it's vitally important for your branding to be accessible for clients with permanent disabilities. So think people who have issues with sight or hearing, people with chronic diseases that restrict their mobility, and so on. Therefore, there are compliance guidelines to keep in mind that are in accordance with the American Disability Act of 1990. So you want to consider these when creating your branding. These guidelines are all created in an effort to keep your designs inclusive, which means keeping in mind all the different kinds of people who will be accessing your materials. For example, if you're creating a video for your website, it's important to include an option for subtitles so that those with hearing impairments can still watch the video and still gain knowledge from it. Another thought about inclusive design might be when you are loading images onto your website, there's an option to include alternative text. That is so that you can create a caption that helps people with visual impairments understand what the picture is. Going back to our discussions about fonts and choosing simplistic, easy-to-read fonts, it's important to maintain consistency with fonts, so not using 10 different fonts. And you want to use fonts that are appropriately sized, and you want the ability to zoom in on digital materials. This is all in an effort to make it easy to read. If you'd like to learn more about the importance of accessibility in design, let me know. There's plenty more to learn about this topic, and there's plenty that you need to keep in mind when it comes to marketing. For example, considering what you could do on social media to make your social media more accessible. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know in the survey following this webinar. If you're unsure of what you want your branding and your design to look like, a good idea is to find a brand that you like and emulate their style without just copying it. Just poke around on the internet and get a feel for what other brands are doing these days, especially brands in the health insurance industry, and what makes their marketing stand out. It's a process of continually updating, rethinking, and reevaluating your existing brand so that you can stay ahead of the curve. And as always, don't forget to ask for feedback, either from a trusted colleague, a friend, or even your clients who see your marketing and branding all the time. What do they like? What don't they like? You can gain some very valuable insight from your clients just by asking for a little bit of feedback. So as you consider your own marketing, let's go through this checklist, and I would encourage you to write this stuff down and then keep it at your desk every time you make a new marketing piece. First question, is this piece identifying a problem and offering a solution? That's going back to the design process that we discussed. The problem, the solution, and then continually asking for feedback. Did I include a call to action? Can my clients and prospects actually take action on what I created? Do your colors match your brand's color palette? Again, maintaining that consistency. Are the fonts simple and easy to read? Self-explanatory. Make sure that they can actually read the piece. Are your images sharp and high res? That's where those websites like Pexels, Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, things like that come into play. Does the layout of your piece make sense? Does everything flow nicely? If you'd like to see how I try to make things flow well with the layout, check out that webinar that I mentioned that I did last year about basic flyer design. And finally, did you ask for feedback? Write this checklist down and keep it on your desk for the next time you make your own marketing materials. And also feel free to send your materials my way, and I'll let you know what I would do differently to make it better design. All right, that's all we have for today. Thank you all for joining. If you're interested, the next Build Your Brand webinar will be live with Hank Hoffmeyer from iContact. We'll be discussing the value and importance of email marketing, as well as as well as how to implement best practices to yield the highest delivery and open rates for your messages. Thank you all and have a great day.